Hey everybody, it's me, DeoGenZ, and welcome to my Pokemon Crystal walkthrough. Today we are taking one last training episode day to travel some routes in Kanto that we have not seen yet. That is 15, 14, 13, and the other half of 12, the other divergent path we could have took if we didn't want to capture Snorlax and go in that weird jagged formation to catch all the gym badges. So now we are going to do a little bit of backtracking and do some more experience boosting because that dreaded last trainer that is the toughest in the game. Well, believe it or not, even after all the gyms we've gone to in Kanto and Johto, even if Blue suggested they were nothing but child's play, well, our Pokemon are still under-leveled. Severely! So we need to travel on these routes for a good purpose of training. And like I said, I usually like to keep all the training bits in, but since these are minor battles, we're going to speed them on right up. This way we can get through many of them in a 15-minute limit. Not that I'm bound to that limit anymore, but it just becomes rambling at some point, and I know you'd like to go about your day, and watching pointless training episodes can be a bore sometimes. But I tell you a thing or two, there is a valuable trade coming up on this route. I believe Route 14. Somewhere in there is a lady, or it might be any one of these trainers. I recommend you come here with your own team, gain the experience points that you need, attach an experience share to whatever Pokemon is not maybe your main offensive maneuver, and maybe like my Mr. Poof doesn't have many ways, but supporting moves it has to level up with, so use experience share there. And then talk to all the trainers and people on these routes because one of them has a awesome trade. And you can get the best of both worlds because this is the second generation, and that is, she will trade you an Aerodactyl, the only Aerodactyl in the game. I don't believe at any point you... Little Nerps. I always see Xatu and think that it's funny. He's like, covering my Nerps, but they're looking at you like a cat's eyes. Very freaky Pokemon. Apparently can tell the weather. But anyway, I think this is the only ancient Pokemon you can get in this game. If I am correct, I don't believe there are any fossils you can have unless you connect up with red, blue, and yellow and go back in time to an age when Amber and Helix and Dome fossils were given out in Mount Moon. Well, Amber was gained at Cinnabar, but you know what I mean. Oh no, wasn't it gained at Pewter? I'm mixing it up. Anyway, this is the only ancient Pokemon you can get in this cartridge, and it's through a trade, but it's a tricky one, and it's a Chansey. The only place, of course, that you can see Chansey, it's nice that the developers made it so convenient for you, is these routes. Specifically, I think it's Route 14 that has the Chansey, the 1% chance out of all the wild Pokemon you see here, and you saw in the continuation section before we entered the main walkthrough here. Out of all those Pokemon, there's a 1% chance you'll run into it in the grass, and I remember one time it happened to me. One time on my cartridge-based game. That game has been erased since then, just from internal battery dry-ups. I absolutely hate that, but now my files are backed up in cyberspace. We'll get to that archiving aspect in a moment. But I think I saw it one time, and I only had Ultra Balls, and I believe it fled. So use Mean Look. Have a Gengar or a Haunter that is very much leveled up, and that Ditto that turned into a Raichu looks awesome. Nope, cutting Dana last. Like I said, I have edits, so I can edit out your phone calls. It feels good, the editing power. But I only had Ultra Balls, it ran, so have a Haunter or a Gengar, something, preferably Gengar, it's my favorite Pokemon, but something that can use Mean Look and also use Hypnosis because you want to be careful not to destroy this Chansey. And when you catch it, this very difficult Pokemon to find, I recommend bringing a Master Ball, even if you can, if you don't even want to go through the Mean Look process and chuck 1,000 Ultra Balls at this thing, because they are hard to catch. It is a rare chance in the game that you will ever see them. But of course, just like my first shiny encounter ever in Emerald, I did not have enough Pokeballs. I was just walking around randomly, and that's when it happens. So always be equipped with many Ultra Balls at your side, and make sure you have Gengar or a Pokemon with Mean Look at the front of your team. It's sort of like trying to find the legendary dogs roaming about the Johto region, but it's even tougher because there's only a 1% chance! 1%! 1%. I feel lucky enough just to have seen it on this route and know that it is in fact possible. You know, that's also something people wonder and watch walkthroughs for, especially people doing really cool runs of Nuzlocke challenges and things to see if possible combinations in the game are even possible. You know, can you even do that? Is there such a thing as a Chansey on this route? Can it really be done? Well, after all the many games that I've played through Crystal, both in cartridge and emulators, I can tell you it happens, but it's rare. So I'm only going to be worrying this episode about battling these fools and getting the experience points that we can for that super tough trainer that we will most likely travel towards in the next episode. I know everybody's gnawing at the bit, per se, to get to Mount Silver, but we will take a few more episodes to train, and hopefully you guys enjoy me speaking and telling you stories enough to bear with the training episodes, but I only know that in the comment section below. So here's an idea for you, the fact that, wow, we are one of the first generations to sort of put our minds into cores. Very much a la Portal and Portal 2 way of downloading yourself into machines, kind of how GLaDOS was downloaded, but I don't want to give too many spoilers away on that, but just thinking about the cores. If you've at least played Portal 1, that's been out for years. Just the cores of personality cores. We as people are now putting ourselves out there in video formats that will have, hopefully, if there's not a gigantic EMP blast, something that disrupts all of our electrical grids and hard drives and just screws that up, a giant magnet falls from the sky and then instantly, all our data's gone. But that's kind of the idea. You know, GLaDOS was trying to preserve her cores and be a self-replicating and repairing machine. And maybe we're getting to that stage with the internet. At least we are downloading ourselves into the machine very rapidly, whether it's through Facebook or it's through videos. I mean, there's a camera on everything now. There's a camera on the iPad, there's a camera on my computer that's not looking at me because I have tape over it. I only open it when it is necessary, but I mean everything, almost everything these days that you can get has a camera and is Wi-Fi or 3G enabled. So you can film yourself at any time and add yourself to the collective cores. And it's up to you who you're going to be. You know, it's pretty plain to see when people are being phony, and that's something that the internet does well. It exposes people, and trolls expose themselves. You know, if you're going to be negative all over the internet cores, that's what you're implanting into the system. Alright, that's what we're going to remember about you. That's a shame. You could have had a fun time. I'm sitting here playing Pokemon Crystal, just chilling out with the peoples of YouTubes, and it's a good old time. Actually, you know what? Sneak attack from behind. Oh, I remember this guy. This regal owner. I remember this guy because he had a funny literation thing. Literation of kings that I didn't even realize how many kingly Pokemon there were. There's Nidoking. There's Slowking. And then can you guess the third king? I'll leave it to you in the comments, but I already know what that is. But this guy was funny. I was like, huh, you know, I never thought about that. Huh, what other names are there? Different U's? Different, I don't know, different prefixes and suffixes of Pokemon that may or may not be related. A Sea King. I actually was going to guess Kingler. So I got it wrong on my own video, what? But that could have been another Pokemon, another kingly Pokemon, so that got me thinking, oh, what Pokemon are alike? But really, you know, this is what I've been doing my whole life, and to share that and find the community that you fit in with, whether you're looking on Reddit, going to those communities, LP communities, or news communities. Matt was telling me there's even college communities. It's crazy. There's a community and forum for everything. Any core that is related to yours can come up in the search terms, and you can instantly be chatting. That's a crazy advancement of technology and speech, and it's almost starting to form into where we don't need language anymore. Eventually you're going to get a brain chip that just telepathically almost, it would seem as though it's telepathy, but it's really just wireless, transmitting from brain to brain like 3DS Spot Pass. We'll just be shifting ideas with each other all the time. We'll just become whittled down to our preferences, and that's how we'll lose our language. That's how we forgot so many languages. We just stopped using them. They became eventually irrelevant. And if that happens with technology, oh yeah, so many Pikachus. Speaking of which, how many Pokemon end with ooh? Well, how about just a team of 6 Pikachu? This guy just pissed me off, so Quake time! Cannot mess with Typhlosion explosions. Whenever he erupts, he makes earthquakes and fissures too. Oh, what an unfortunate side effect for your electric types. Which Typhlosion is definitely going to come in handy in our next big battle. Actually, you know, there's one other trainer now that I think of it, that we should give a rematch to. And that is our rival. He said that he learned, and he said that he's going to work hard to try and defeat us. And I believe there are certain days you can actually see him in the Dragon's Den behind the Master Elder Dragon Lords who gave us the Extreme Speed Dratini. Behind that hut, he is training his Pokemon, and if you go there, I think on certain days you'll be able to battle him, on other days he'll just tell you to go fuck off, I am trying to train. You are bothering me. I don't think that's really a good training method, and it makes sense that we defeat him every time. He's in an area where he can only mainly defeat Magikarps and Dratinis. Sometimes Dratinis, rarely Dratinis in the water. Maybe he thinks that if he hangs out with the elders, he'll get on their good side and they'll finally say, alright, you're a good trainer, you can have the 8th badge, just like DeoGenZ did. Yeah. Sorry, Silver, you gotta defeat Claire first. That's something interesting about this rival. He, unlike Blue, or Gary, if you called him that, from watching the anime, he did not try to usurp your badge collection in getting to the gyms first and make you feel insignificant, like, he's always one step ahead of me. It's just the compulsion to see him again, because you think, aha, now I finally went to the market and I have Pokeballs, so I can try to steal back the Pokemon you stole from Professor Elm. But no, it does not work. Yeah, that was funny. The first time I tried it on an emulator, I got the cheat to collect other trainers' Pokemon just so I could capture their Pokemon, but the funny thing is, the story will continue and the game kind of glitches around that cheat that you did on the emulator, and what it does is gives your opponent the next form of what their Pokemon would have been, so it's like you didn't take any Pokemon of theirs, but you can recapture their new evolved form. It's a very funny cheat, and I normally don't cheat on games, but it's just funny to do no boundaries, walk over everything hacks, because that's how, at least in this game, you get to Glitch City. Another great thing, another great item, not necessarily something you need to train for or trade for, is the Super Rod. Just tell this guy you love fishing, and now you have access to many more rare Pokemon that you've seen pop up in this walkthrough in the form of the borders or in the previews before the walkthrough. You can go back and see what are the more rare Pokemon that I can only snag with the Super Rod. Once you come to Route 12, and you actually could have gotten it a lot earlier than we did, really as soon as you went to Saffron, or not Saffron. Yeah, once you went to Saffron, you could have made a right to Lavender, and then just have taken Route 12 down to the Super Rod, so you can get that pretty early.